think if you use the term woke, you don't belong using the term woke. Like if you complain about something being woke, you don't know. Like you're already behind the eight ball. Like just stop.
You're complaining about using the term woke, or you're
Well,
complaining about something being woke?
no, about using people who are complaining. I'm complaining about people who complain about things being woke.
Like Ben Shapiro,
Yeah,
people like that. Uh huh.
he's 2000 and late. It was like a thing a couple years ago, and yeah. Anyway, anyone who uses that term now doesn't deserve to use that term.
Yeah, it's very silly to me how something like that becomes a bad word, you know? I mean, people out there, there are so many people who are just like really good at propaganda, and I get it. And the internet is like a horrible pit of despair and misinformation, and I get that too. But like, you know, a term that essentially at its core, ideally, is just meaning like, I don't know,
Aware.
being aware of other people and other experiences, and maybe accepting that there are other valid experiences than your own, and maybe that you should listen to certain other people, especially if theirs are the voices who have not been traditionally in power and things like that. And like that seems like a reason to me, a reasonable, and I'm not even getting extreme about it, right? This is bare bones. Seems like a reasonable enough position, a reasonable enough idea. And yet, it has become like this fucking, boogeyman word for conservative people. And so, yeah, it's just very strange to me.
What's up, podcast?
Yeah, podcast happening.
Yum, yum,
What are you
yum. Hi,
drinking,
podcast.
Ethan?
So, I still have several tree houses left from the pack that me and Matt got, but tonight I actually have an other half that Matt gave to me. Um, actually,
Doom
it's
machine.
showers,
Doom showers. Doom
doom
showers.
showers. I was wondering, I was trying to see what the word said here. I was like, is it say doom? Okay, so it's a collab with other half and Troon. Matt, I don't know Troon. What's their deal?
Troon's the new hotness.
Are they?
They are in. Well, they're the new hotness for beer. They're in. It's a farm brewery in Princeton or Hopewell, New Jersey, near Princeton.
Okay.
Um,
Hmm.
that I mean, they hardly release anything because they just have their capacity constrained. They can hardly like make enough to keep up with the people who want to buy their beer. They only have one draft account, which is the restaurant out in front of their brewery on this farm. Um, they like do surprise releases. So essentially, they'll like today at 4:59 on Instagram they posted like we have beer today. We have 250 allotments. Like it's here's the beer, and they talk about it. And within half an hour, it's like there's enough people in line that we're sold out. Thank you.
Wow. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Um, I don't think they're actually, from what I've heard from people who know the brewers, they're not really interested in scaling up either. They're kind of happy doing their own thing, but they are very well known for their. They just call them hoppy ales, but IPAs and double IPAs. Um, Now the I don't know I I'm at a loss for words, listeners. I like it because it's very very high quality, but it's very frustrating too because unless you live within 20 minutes of the brewery, you're not going to get it. Like my work is like 2 hours from that place. I'm never going to be able to just like go there after work and pick up the beer because it's always going to be sold out. They will do ticket releases sometimes, but again, the same thing. They just like sporadically announce it, like, "Oh, hey, we got tickets for sale," and then like 3 minutes later, it's like, "Hope you got some. They're sold out."
Hmm.
So unless you're like on your phone ready to go, you're not going to get anything.
Yeah, so in this case, this is a situation where the only chance you're getting something from them is like through your like beer groups on Facebook and stuff like that, right?
If I'm lucky, but people in that group have a hard time getting stuff too.
That's
So
wow.
that was why it was nice to have the collab with them. Or when I was at Green City Other Apps Festival earlier this year, they were up there with a couple of their beers. So,
Oh, okay.
but
Hmm.
or if I mean you
Well,
can stop at the restaurant where their one draft account is and get some stuff there too. They've got two or three beers on tap usually.
hmm. Well, this one is really tasty for sure. Yeah.
Colin, what do you got?
Matt, I just want to say, I know it's like unsurprising at this point, both for our listeners and like me as a friend of yours, but your knowledge of beer is just incredible. The fact that you could just like rattle all that off, like that's what I can do for baseball, so I can relate. But I'm just like, wow, I'm still really impressed.
Unfortunately, a lot of it is gained from standing in line with guys who look like me while, at like beer festivals. Like, oh, you know the guys from Truth? Tell me about it. How do you always get their beer? I want some. That's usually about it.
That is what beer enthusiasts sound like. Yeah.
That's what beer fests are. Just 2,000 people who look like me, kind of happily, drunkenly bouncing off each other because we're all overweight.
You know what it made me think of, actually? Not the voice, but like the gesture and the way you were kind of bouncing that, is it made me think of South Park Canadians. How they're with their heads like split in half and be like, "Merp, merp, merp, merp." Yeah, that's what it made me think of. This is a great beer, buddy.
Oh man, well, that's just as an offshoot. So the brewery of the namesake on my hat, Voodoo Brewing, released some IPAs a couple years ago, and the series is called Buddy, Guy, and Friend. Three different beers.
Oh my god,
they're IPAs.
I love it.
And they've got the South Park characters in the front. The guys at Voodoo though really like South Park. They've done they're one of their most famous beers is called Man Bear Pig. They've also got a beer called Taco Flavored Kisses. They've got the IPAs. They've done a lot of stuff that's either Seinfeld or South Park themed.
Matt, didn't you send me like a Clyde Frog beer?
Yes, that was Voodoo.
It was Voodoo. Okay.
Yeah, and they're also the ones that did Colin's Sticks beer.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
So they've got a sense of humor.
Very cool.
Nice.
Well, I am drinking Hide in the Haze. It is a brew by Suffolk Punch down here in Charlotte. 6%. It's okay. I was expecting a little bit more. Not a little bit more alcohol percentage, but just tasting a little bit better. I gave it a 3.25. But
okay.
Yeah.
How old is it?
I looked after that because I was like, is it too old? 7/1/22.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that should still be tasting good. So.
Yeah. I think it's just not what I thought it was going to be. It says tropical, but like I don't really feel the tropic,
Surprisingly, for the second week in a row,
no,
I am not drinking anything.
Oh my goodness.
The world is ending.
Yeah, it's been 7 days. This is now spoiler alert, after last week's show, I did go downstairs and I had a beer. But since that beer last Wednesday night, I have had nothing.
Holy shit, really?
Yeah. Now, part of it is, so I did, to get all our listeners caught up, I did catch the COVID. After 2.5 years, I was finally unable to stay away. And so I tested positive last Thursday. And I've been taking Tylenol to help with the fever on Thursday and then help with the sore throat on Friday and Saturday. So didn't want to mix Tylenol and alcohol. That's always a really, really bad story for your liver. So don't ever do that. Tylenol plus booze or acetaminophen plus booze, really bad, really bad. But also just I lost my sense of smell and most of my sense of taste. So that the other kind of sad half of it is I don't really feel like I'm kind of afraid to drink a beer at this point. Like I don't know if it's going to taste different. I don't know if I'm not going to like it. It's kind of a weird, like, I have no desire at the moment, and I'm kind of afraid.
Be a waste of a treehouse beer. Yeah.
I do. I mean, I still have a couple in the fridge. I got some good ones.
Yeah, it would be a waste. Yeah, to have it when you don't have a sense of smell or taste. I mean, my God.
Yeah. So
wait, is it coming back or what? Is it getting any better?
It's slowly creeping back. So I'll say I have diminished taste. So some things taste normal. Vanilla ice cream tastes normal. But like I had a piece of pizza the other day because I was experimenting and texture wise tasted like
honey and pepperoni.
No, no. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed to say this, Greg. I'm cousin Greg. I'm really sorry. This was an experiment more than it was for nourishment. I had a slice of gas station pizza just because I was curious 2 days ago, and
You got to do what you got to do.
Was it Sheets though?
no,
Okay.
not that I was like gas
Or
station
Wawa?
pizza doesn't taste good anyway, but I was hoping it would at least taste like what I would expect it to taste.
Right.
This just
Right.
the texture was there, but the taste wasn't. So that was kind of disappointing. That was a bad thought experiment the other day.
Now's the time to do it though.
Yeah.
When you have no taste and smell.
Yeah.
So it's diminished taste, and I think I'm getting a little bit of smell back. So like this morning I was telling Colin, I think I could smell a little, like a faint smell of my deodorant this morning, but like with the weirdest, it's weird. Like Saturday and Sunday and Monday, I could stick my nose in like a thing of scent booster crystals in the washer and dryer with the laundry room, and I couldn't smell a dang thing. And that's frightening. Like it's like I know this should smell really, really strongly of like mountain breeze, whatever the hell that chemical concoction is, but I smelled nothing. It just felt like I was breathing in through my nose. Similarly, like taking out the trash last night. To the extent that you could feel a smell, it's like the weirdest sensation. Like as I was putting my trash in the bin, like I sniffed the bin and I couldn't smell any of the trash smell. I could tell that my nose was smelling something. I could like feel something that was like, this smells bad, but I couldn't actually tell you what any of it's like. It was the weirdest thing. Like I knew there was a smell there, couldn't tell you what the smell was. I could just tell you, oh, this is a bad smell.
Wow.
It's the weirdest thing.
Crazy.
So anyway.
Well, we're glad you're feeling better, obviously.
Yep.
Yes.
And,
yes.
And I know because I had talked to you that it didn't really spread too much outside of just you and a couple people you were with. So
I was very nervous, but I'm happy to report that the infection's been contained. Yeah, I'm doing much better on my road to recovery.
Awesome.
Well, we look forward to cracking a beer with you soon. It'll be a good time.
Mm-hmm.
So we can take this a couple different ways in terms of what else we want to talk about tonight. I could start with something that I think will set Ethan off because he's hinted at being annoyed about this a couple times over the past week or so.
Oh.
I could also show you or not show you, but tell you about some really funny stuff from our buddy Ken Tremendous. Or
Michael, sure. Yeah.
Yes.
I wasn't sure.
And I could let Ethan could tell the story of that if it makes sense. Or we can start by talking about O'Neill Cruz. I don't know if you guys saw that today.
I actually, I did.
No,
I
did not.
I saw it and I was thinking about him, and actually I looked up his numbers and actually was thinking about mentioning him.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with him?
Educate me, guys. Yeah, what did I miss?
So O'Neill Cruz hit the hardest hit batted ball tracked by StatCast today, 122.4 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
It was a single.
It was a fucking bullet, like a laser beam off the right field wall. Yeah.
And like the immediate thought for me when I saw that it wasn't a homer, and just thinking about like all the homers that Judge and Stanton have hit, and I mean just the piss missiles that come off their bat, like I'm like, can you hit a ball that hard and it go out? Is that possible? Or does it have to be like a line drive single like that? Because I think Stanton had the hardest hit ball this season prior to that, if I remember correctly. And it was like a single or something like that. And I just wonder, like, the getting into the analytics and everything, the launch angle, like, can you actually hit a ball that hard that goes that far? Or can you max out at like 119, 120 miles an hour? At least right now. I mean, like, they're only going to get stronger, right? And everything. So
this is an amazing question. And I got to believe that like physics can answer it. Like if Matt doesn't already know how to answer this, I will ask my partner after this episode, because I am sure that there is a way to like actually answer that. Like, what is the speed at a certain launch angle that the ball would have to go to travel such and such feet to get over a wall that is such and such tall. Like, I'm sure that you can figure out any manner of scenarios with the physics, right? I mean, that would be
What?
super interesting. What,
To
Matt?
say, well, actually, I did my science fair project on the launch angle and lift coefficient of footballs in ninth grade. So, I mean, I'd say an actual physicist would be much better at this setup, but I think you're not just. I don't think, Colin. I think you're wrong. I don't think hard balls hit that hard have to be line. I mean, as essentially it's a force meeting another ball. So as long as you've got the force coming at the right angle, now you have different wind resistances and different lift coefficients. Yeah, I don't know how much lift the baseball actually generates, but I know the spin of the baseball also can determine how far, backspin versus knuckling versus front spin will determine how far it flies as well. But really, if O'Neal Cruz was swinging as hard as he was, if I guess I should say, if the force in the direction of the launch angle, damn it.
It's all right. Your brain's foggy. You've had COVID. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're breaking it down into like the force of the bat and the swing path, right? You've got, depending on the swing path and depending on if it's an uppercut swing or like a level swing, you've got, if it's a level swing, all your force is directed straight. Mm-hmm. If it's an uppercut swing, you've got some of the force, breaking down the vector into its two components. You've got some of the force directed in the vertical direction and some of the force directed in the, the horizontal direction. But again, as long as that moment is hitting the ball, as long as the angle is right and the force is right, I'm assuming you should be able, if that 122 mile an hour single could have easily been a 550-foot home run.
Yeah. And I mean, to be clear, I'm not saying that can't happen. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Like, I think I do believe what you just said, Matt, that like that could have been a homer, or it can be a homer in the future from Cruz or from Judge or any of these people who are 6'6", 6'7" and taller and just mammoths and hitting baseballs. But I was just like, I was surprised when I saw the stat, and like you watch the hit and it's impressive, but I was just like, I just saw it and I was expecting to see this long home run, and it wasn't. And I mean, it's still very cool, but yeah.
I mean, I do think there are limits though. There's going to be a limit of at some point that we're going to reach of, whether it's human performance or the strength of a wooden bat or, the maximum baseball can go with that kind of force in the air resist. There is a limit somewhere, but I don't think that is necessarily affecting if it's a home run or a single. So
yeah,
I did a very poor job. By the way, any of my friends or scientists listening to this, I am sorry, because I still did a pretty bad job explaining all that. But
you did just fine. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're fine.
Okay.
No.
All right. I had forgotten to plug in my microphone and I just plugged it in and I wasn't sure if it was going to fuck something up. No, I think that's super interesting. And I have one thing I wanted to mention about Cruz too that's super interesting to me. So, because he had that hit, right? And as Colin said, fastest hit ball in the StatCast era, which is since 2015 for people who may not know. So, that's pretty solid. He also has been in the news this year for making an infield throw. Was it fastest? It was fastest, wasn't it? It just beat Tatis, who had 2 throws, right?
I think it beat them. Vlad was the one he beat. Vlad Jr.
Tatis. Vlad Jr.
Tatis hasn't played this year.
Yeah, but he did it like last year. Vlad Jr. wouldn't throw at 97 miles an hour. He plays first base.
I'm pretty sure he was playing third, and for whatever reason,
maybe he was up there. I know Tatis for sure was up there. In any case,
yeah.
So Cruz was in the news now twice this year for the hardest throw and now the hardest hit. And so I was like, wow, that's really amazing. I haven't heard all that much about him otherwise. He must be fucking destroying shit this year. And I went and I looked up his numbers. His WAR is like 0.7 for the year. He's only played like 50 something games. I don't know if he's been hurt, but other than these couple like amazing things that he's done, he's really not playing very well. His OPS plus was like 80 or something. So
Yeah.
like, 20 points below average in terms of an overall hitter. So when he gets one, it's unbelievable, right? And same with his defense, but he's only 23. I hope that he puts it all together, because it would be really amazing if he could become somebody like Judge, who has that strength and that power and that size, and is also like a really good overall player.
Yeah, and
So far, not there.
he wasn't a mid he wasn't a hurt. He was a midseason call up.
That's
Yeah,
what
he
it was.
didn't. Right. Yeah.
That's right. Okay, so
Yeah.
so we still got some time. We'll see what it looks like at the end of the year.
And I mean,
But
look, I'm looking at the score right now. Today they lost 14-2 to the Braves. They're 47-77 overall. Like
ugh,
he's not on a good team. He's not in a good situation.
yeah, true.
That when you're that young and all the expectations are on you, it's rare, that you can do it alone. Like we were talking about A-Rod so much last week, and people forget like those Mariners teams are the best Mariners teams of their entire franchise history.
Yep.
And like, if you put A-Rod on those teams at any other point in their history, does he have that same success immediately? Probably not, right? He's got Griffey in the lineup. He's got Buhner. He's got Edgar Martinez. He's got Randy Johnson on the mound, Jamie Moyer, and everything. And it's like, it's just a lot of pressure to put someone on a terrible franchise like the Pittsburgh Pirates have been for pretty much our entire existence, outside of maybe 2 seasons where
2 seasons.
I don't even think they
years
went
ago.
past the division series.
Which is they won like 98 games, 97 games a couple of years there, but yeah.
Yeah. So
somewhere, someplace in this country, Jamie Moyer is still trying to pitch.
Jamie Moyer.
Yeah, Jamie Moyer is still pitching, and Ricky Henderson's still hitting.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
So good. All right, Ethan, do you want to tell people a little backstory quickly about friend of the podcast, Joe Posnanski's friend, Ken Tremendous, and how that all happened before I read off some stuff?
Yeah, okay, so Ken Tremendous is the Twitter handle of Michael Schur, who is one of the most decorated and important television writers of this generation. He was one of the writers for The Office. Before that, he worked on SNL for several years. After he left The Office, he was the co-creator and showrunner of Parks and Recreation, my favorite show of all time. He also was the co-creator of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, another of my favorite shows. He co-created that with a former Parks and Rec writer named Dan Gore. He was the creator and showrunner of The Good Place, another show that I loved, and that is beloved. He was the co-creator of Rutherford Falls, which is a show that's on now. The second season came out recently. First season was awesome. Anyways, point being, super, amazing TV writer, amazing comedy writer. And he also wrote a book on ethics that came out recently that I haven't had a chance to read yet. But in any case, he and Joe Posnanski, my favorite sports writer of all time, friend of the podcast, are like super close friends. And they have been for years and years now, because Mike Schur, the TV writer, is a massive, rabid, insane baseball fan, like on our level, if not more. He might be a little crazier because he's a Red Sox fan, and Red Sox fans, fans of previously tortured or currently tortured franchises, I think they have an extra sort of crazy to them.
Yeah, there's an edge. Yeah,
there's an edge there, and Mike Schur has that. Even though the Red Sox are the dominant baseball team of the 21st century in terms of actual championships, he still has this that edge. He lives in like constant fear and anxiety about the Yankees. Like, it's fucking hilarious. But he and Joe Paz are really close friends. They do a podcast together, which is my favorite thing. And I forget how they met. I think they had I know what it was. It was Mike Schur ran a blog called Fire Joe Morgan back when we were younger, which made fun of Joe Morgan, who, while one of the greatest players of all time, was kind of a moron as a broadcaster. And so what they ended up doing on that website is making fun of all sorts of broadcasters and sports writers who used quote unquote conventional wisdom that really didn't stand up to like modern knowledge. It's one of those things where like certain fields are slow to evolve, and baseball is definitely one of them. So in any case, Mike Schur, rabid baseball fan, got to know Joe Paz through the baseball world, and they're really close friends. And yeah, and we've mentioned it on the pod before. We've talked about Joe Paz a bunch. We've also mentioned Mike Schur a bunch because Colin and I specifically are always entertained by how salty Mike Schur gets about anything, but especially about Yankee stuff. So take it away, Kyle.
Yes, and it is Yankee stuff that he got salty about very recently. And it's just so epic every single time. And it comes out of nowhere, especially in the midst of like what has been obviously a brutal month overall. Yeah, they've won the last 3 games, but
yeah, brutal.
So Mike started this the other day by just tweeting out randomly JD Martinez home runs 2021, 28. This year, 9. Xander Bogaerts home runs 2021, 23. This year, 10. Gleyber Torres home runs 2021, 9. This year, 18. And then the one that
Matt Carpenter.
The one that really irks him, Matt Carpenter, home runs 2021, 30, 3 in 130 games. This season, 15 in 47 games.
It's just the best. It's the best. Oh my God.
So people, like, I think one of the best things about Mike is that he reads his replies and he replies to them and he just like feeds into it and everything. And it's all in good fun. Like he's never really like mean or anything like that. But the other Benintendi's been getting at him lately since he started to heat up. And so he tweets, the Red Sox traded Andrew Benintendi for Frankie Cordero and Josh Winkowski. Somebody tweeted back, Benintendi has a whopping 4 HRs this year, LOL. And this is like when he just starts going off. Benintendi has been worth 2.8 WAR. Frankie has been worth negative 0.03. Winkowski has been worth 0.0 WAR. And just like on and on with these fans. Like if you just read through the thread, this was like 3 nights ago or something like that. It is just so funny when he gets fired up about all of that. And he just, the Matt Carpenter thing specifically is so funny. Like he can't get over it.
Oh, he cannot. It's amazing. He's talked about it on the podcast where, because he and Joe Paz love to talk, and we've talked about this on the pod too, right? On our pod, about Yankee black magic, about these people the Yankees will get out of nowhere, and all of a sudden their either career is revived or they were nobody, and then all of a sudden they're amazing for like half a season, and then they go back to being nobody for the rest of their career, right? And it drives them fucking insane. But Matt Carpenter, to be fair, it is fucking wild. And I remember Mike Schur saying that it was like all-time levels of infuriating or something like that. And it's just too good. It's too funny. What I love to imagine is, so he has 2 kids and they're both like, they haven't graduated high school. Like they're still pretty young. His wife is also a comedy writer. She's actually Regis Philbin's daughter. Regis Philbin was his father-in-law. He talked about that on one of the pods when Regis passed. But in any case, I love to imagine like this particular night that you're talking about, Colin, was Mike Schur just like sitting alone in his office at like 9 p.m., like just tweeting madly, like just going insane about like all of this like baseball minutia. Like what do his wife and kids think? Are they just like, oh, that's dad, just let him do his thing? Like it's just so funny for me to like picture that, because he's also like super busy. Again, he's like this really important busy comedy writer. And but he finds time to like go on these fucking Twitter rants. I just love it.
The fact that Carpenter hasn't played in like a month and it still drives him crazy.
Yep.
Like, that's the cherry on top.
Yep. Amazing.
Now I'll say I'm not very familiar with Mr. Schur, but if any listeners are not familiar with him and want to get a good introduction, watch his TED Talk.
Did he do it? Was it on ethics?
Yes, and it was incredible.
So he did a bunch of studying of ethics leading up to the Good Place. He did it to do that show. It was something I guess he had decided he was really interested in, wanted to do. And I haven't actually watched the TED Talk, but I mean, I'm sure it's brilliant. He's amazing, and he's smart, and he's witty, and he's funny, and he's awesome.
Have either one of you seen the show Hacks? He's a writer for that.
Oh, that's right. That's another one. I forgot about that one. I haven't, but it's on my list because there actually are some Parks and Rec alumni who are like part of running that show and writing that show. Yeah. I've been wanting to check that out. Yeah. Have you
Yeah,
you
it's
watched
very
some,
good.
Cal? Yeah.
Yeah, we're in season 2 now. There's a third season confirmed. I don't know when it's coming out, but it's very funny. Just, I mean, not as good as Parks and Recs, but I mean that's a high bar.
It's a
But
high bar.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely as good as some of his other work. And I didn't know until I think it was the end of season 1. I was just watching through the credits, and I saw his name. Like we were, it kept showing up on HBO Max like as something to watch, and I was like, all right, it's a comedy. It's about this woman who has residency in Vegas. She's a big time comedian and has this residency in Vegas, and basically this other woman is kind of exiled from the writing world because of a tweet she sent about something. I can't even remember what the tweet is, and they end up syncing up together because she's desperate for work, and the main character needs someone to write jokes for her and everything. And it's like really funny, like their relationship together. It's good. It's different, but it's really good. I definitely recommend it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So was the other thing you mentioned the thing that's going to set me off? Potentially?
Have I mentioned it yet, or do you want me
You,
to?
no, is that the other? You had mentioned a few bullet points for things we could talk about.
Oh yeah.
And I think the last bullet point was the thing that could set me off, right?
Yeah, we can get into it. Okay. So I have kind of gone off on mini rants about this, especially this season. And I understand that the media has a job to do, and that fans are fans, and they're gonna do what they do. I watched both Yankee games this past weekend against the Blue Jays, Saturday and Sunday. I watched pretty much the whole thing in both games. All day on Saturday, all Michael Kay and John Flaherty and your boy unvaccinated Paul O'Neill could talk about is Alek Manoah pitching on Sunday, Max Scherzer pitching on Monday, Jacob deGrom supposed to pitch on Tuesday. LLL. They were like, this is going to be ridiculously hard. The Yanks aren't in a place to do this. And I remember saying to Toddy the night before, I was like, I bet you the Yankees are going to win these next 3 games because everyone is writing them off. And like, these are professional athletes. I just don't understand why the media or why fans think that these people give up the way that they give up. Like fans, the season's over, right? In their mind, even though they won these last 3 games, the Yanks aren't going to win the World Series. If you ask like 90% of Yankee fans, they're done. They thrown the towel in. Yeah. And like the other thing that was driving me crazy is Michael Kay. And I for the most part, I'm okay with him. He does a couple things that drive me nutty, but he kept talking about how, is this the real team? And this again was on Saturday in the midst of another loss. And he's like, it's been long enough now that this might be the real team. And what we saw earlier in the season was the fluke. And I was like, Michael, come on, man. Like, I know you're a media guy. I know you're about clicks. I know you're about listeners. I understand that. But you cannot tell me that if this team was healthy, that they would be going through the stretch that they've gone through the past several weeks. If you just look at the injured list right now and compare it to what it was earlier in the season when everyone was healthy, yeah, of course it's going to be different. And like, so that part I can buy, that they're completely different teams maybe, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that like what they did the first 70 games of the season doesn't matter and doesn't carry any weight, and that they can't turn it on and finish out the season really hot and go deep in the playoffs or win the World Series or something. But for me, it's been more the media lately. Like, why do you have to take these angles? Why do you have to do that? For Ethan, I think it ends up being the fans a lot. Like when when Hal came out to greet your boy unvaccinated Paul O'Neill and got loudly booed
I want to talk about
time.
that after. Yeah.
For a long time. And then when Brian Cashman's name got mentioned in O'Neill's speech, he got booed very briefly. And it's like, dude, they're in first place. They have a bye. for the playoffs, if the season ended right now, like, what else do you want from these people? It's just it's just never enough. And people say that all the time about the media in New York. It doesn't matter how much you win, it doesn't matter how much good you do, it is never enough. They will tear you apart. And that's why people like Joey fucking Gallo can't make it in New York, but then end up hitting 4 home runs immediately with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Like, it's just this switch flips, and it's like,
well, wait. Just like 30 seconds ago, you're talking, well, these are professional athletes. Well, Gallo is a professional athlete too, and he just sucks. So, sorry.
Well, he only sucked with the Yankees. Other than that, he doesn't suck.
Other
than that, he's really good.
Yeah, he's okay.
No, he's like really good. Other than that,
okay.
I mean, wasn't that your saving grace last year, Matt, for a little while when you were trying to support Gallo? Is that like his OPS or something was?
No,
like,
I was not trying
high?
to support.
Yeah,
Gallo.
no, Matt never was.
No,
it might have been me.
No.
So that was Ethan. Okay, yeah.
Well, listen, Gallo was garbage all last year, and I acknowledged that. But I was hoping, like, okay, a half a season, that's fair. That's fair for an adjustment time. A-Rod, his first year in New York, he was a shell of what he had been for his entire career, right? Like, it takes people. Giancarlo Stanton, when he came here, he was nothing his first year, he was nothing compared to the year before. Jason Giambi, Mark Teixeira. Actually, Teixeira, I think, might have been pretty similar. But the list goes on, and no, I thought Teixeira was pretty close.
Could have won the MVP that year. He led the league in homers.
Yeah, but I think everything else was pretty similar to what he did the year before. It's not like he had a big jump, I don't think. But these other guys, he didn't have a down year. These other guys, though, right? Yeah, their first year in New York, they had for them, they had down years. So that shit happens, so like a year was like a big adjustment, isn't it? It was the necessary adjustment time for some of these like legit superstars. So my thought was, okay, it's a half a season for Joey Gallo. I think it's fair to give him that as an adjustment time, that we see what happens in 2022. Obviously, we saw what happened, and turns out, unfortunately, Matt was right all along, And I mean, I had no problem acknowledging that as a possibility. Just as a Yankee fan, I was hoping, that Gallo would figure it out, but he did not, and he had probably like the worst stretch of a Yankee regular ever for like over 100 and whatever games.
What you're probably remembering is, I believe my stance when we got him was, I don't like the trade. I don't think we need another 3 true outcome guy, but I hope it works. Like, that was kind of my spin.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. But I do want to, I want to address this other stuff. I want to address the booze. I want to address Michael K. So, the Michael K thing, Kyle, I'm totally with you. The worst thing about being a Yankee fan is other Yankee fans. Like, Yankee fans are the fucking worst, and they give the rest of us a bad name. Honestly, this is going to be an analogy that probably does not resonate for anybody. But this is also what it's like being a trumpet player. So just to give everybody a quick example, in the music world, okay, in like the classical music world, and actually even in the rock music world, right? But in like the instrumental music world, there are certain instruments that have reputations, okay? And trumpet players are generally thought to be like arrogant douchebags, arrogant assholes, right? And many of them are. I've met more than my share, right? But there are plenty who aren't, okay? And I have, all joking aside, obviously I love to jokingly be a super arrogant D-bag, right? But as a general rule, I have tried very hard to push back, to fight against that stereotype, right? But there's still this assumption. It's like, trumpet player, oh, okay, that guy's going to have a giant ego and he's going to be a huge douchebag, blah, 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 blah. It's like the same thing with a Yankee fan. It's just this assumption, we get lumped in with, and it sucks because Yankee fans are the fucking worst, okay? And I'm going to talk about that with the booing in a second. But the Michael K thing, what's annoying about that to me, being like, oh, is this the real team? Like, that's so fucking dumb because Stanton and LeMahieu have both not been playing. Holmes has been out. Michael King has been out. It's just really, really dumb. It's just really dumb. 4 like really important pieces have been out. Also, like, we can just look at the actual numbers. We can look at the math. Like, for the first like 3-4 months of the season, what, April, May, June, July, I guess July maybe. Did the slumping really start in earnest in July?
In July, yeah.
Okay. But we're talking about a good 2-3 months of playing amazing baseball. And at this point, we're talking like 3 or 4 weeks of playing shit baseball. Like, just like the math, the ratio here. Like, why are you thinking that this team that has been really shitty for a much shorter amount of time than it was really good and this is with a bunch of really key injuries. Like how do you get there? How do you think that this is the real team? It just doesn't make any logical sense. But that's the point, right? I think Kyle, what you were getting at, right? Media guys, they don't need, it doesn't need to pass a logic test. It's just about emotion. It's just about getting people
They want
fired up.
exactly what we're doing to happen.
Right. Well, exactly. But they want the opposite of me. They want the typical Yankee fan, being like, "Oh, the Yankees are terrible. Fire everybody." Blah 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 blah. Whereas we are like, this is very irrational. Everybody needs to like chill the fuck out.
That's true.
Kay talks for 3 hours on a baseball game, plus a post game and a pregame, plus a 4-hour radio show every day. He's got a lot of hot air to fill out there.
Yeah,
so.
No, that's true. That's a good point. That's fair.
Now, I'm going to use your logic, though. Taking a look at a little bit of the math versus the whole thing, Ethan. Gallo has played parts of 7 seasons. He has 15 WAR. That's not a lot.
That's not a lot. No. Okay, so let me pull up real quick.
So his 162 game
average
WAR 3.4 based on Baseball Reference,
and that is actually quite good, Matthew.
It puts him as a starter.
That puts him as like a good starter. 4 or 5 is like all-star range. And if you take out his Yankee time, that number jumps up quite a bit.
5+ is an all-star. So he is average. And I think that's proven by the fact that he's made 3 all-star teams, but he really should have only made 2.
So hold on. I want to look at something really quickly. So Gallo is not my boy. Okay, I don't want that. I don't want anything to be misconstrued. Okay, I was rooting for him to do well. He's not my boy. I don't hate him as much as like normal Yankee fans because I'm not as crazy, but I am very disappointed and upset with how garbage he was. However, let's just look at something really quickly.
But you're not going to die on the same hill that Timmy did for Gary Sanchez.
No, I will not. No, poor Tim. Tim was way off base. Matthew, your boy. You're an actual boy, DJ LeMahieu. What do you think his 162 game average is for WAR according to Baseball Reference?
Probably like 2.8.
Oh, okay. So you guessed low to be nice and to seem reasonable. 3.5.
Okay.
So about the same as Joey. Just wanted to throw that out there, I mean, obviously we're not having the same argument about DJ, but just saying you like DJ and you respect him a lot as a player. His average WAR the fucking same as Joey, and Joey's would be higher if he had not been such dog shit with the Yankees.
Yeah, what was his WAR with the Yankees?
Oh God, what is it, Matt? Do you have it up still?
I've got it up. Let's see.
It had to be negative cumulative.
Player value batting 0.5 last year, 0.1 this year.
Okay.
Jesus.
All right. I figured he was negative. So
yeah, that's amazing.
But in any case, but I'll say, like, obviously I'm joking about DJ and everything like that, but it's kind of the opposite case for DJ, right? Like DJ was shitty most of his career when he wasn't with the Yankees, except for that one random year. And it's since he's gotten to the Yankees that he's gotten really good. So it's kind of the opposite example, but I had to check because I had a feeling that they might be kind of similar there. But yeah, no, I mean with the Yanks, he's been really good. So I will say, and I was wrong, right? Because we talked about this, I feel like last year and over the off season and stuff. I have been a skeptic of DJ, like his whole Yankee tenure, pretty much. I figured his first year with us was a fluke. But I've come around. I'm firmly a DJ fan at this point.
The biggest thing.
You guys are right, though. I think we're going to have a problem with the end of his contract. That's going to be bad.
I mean, potentially.
He might age well, though, than a lot of other styles of players.
Have you seen him run?
Well, okay. Yeah, maybe not a good runner, but
the fact that he has played all around the infield, third, second, and first, the way that he has this year, like that was something completely unexpected. Like the hitting, rebounding, like that you could believe, right? Because he's done that before. But he's got to be at least average at all those positions.
I believe Kay said last night that DJ and Donaldson's combined defense this year at third is the best in the league.
Wow.
by the
That's
metrics.
impressive. I know
Yeah.
that Donaldson, his defense numbers this year are really good. I didn't realize him and DJ combined. Like that's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, if he continues to give versatility like that, and
Yeah, and if he just keeps like being like a line drive, going for like line drive, style hitting, like I feel like that ages better generally than these like huge power guys. So
it definitely
hopefully,
does. Yeah.
we'll see what happens. But
Okay, small rebuttal. How
Yeah.
much higher do you think Gallo's WAR would have been if he was playing in? This is not really helping DJ, but playing in Colorado. That's one thing that I'm wondering. So
if Gallo had been in Colorado,
so that is one thing I'm looking at this going. Okay, it probably hurts DJ on the OPS plus side of things,
yeah.
but
Well, what's weird about it though is like usually people are really, really good hitters in cores.
Yeah.
Right? But like other than that one random year where he won a batting title,
Yeah,
he
like
was not a
2016.
good hitter with the Rockies. He was below average like his entire career except for that one season. If you look at like OPS plus and stuff,
yeah.
which is really strange because that's usually the opposite. I wonder actually we can't do this tonight. This would be an interesting rabbit hole. I wonder what other examples there are of that. Guys who for whatever reason were shitty hitters in Colorado but we're like really good elsewhere. I feel like it's got to be a small list, but I don't know.
Okay, so here, you guys are gonna make fun of me. Here could be a case where OPS plus and OPS may not tell the whole story, where batting average could help more, because his in a park like Coors, if you're not hitting home runs or doubles or triples, because he's got a piano on his back, so he's not getting gap triples like everyone else does in Coors. He probably wasn't, he wasn't hitting a lot of home runs, but he still had fairly good batting averages in Coors. He was 301, 348, 310, 297, 280, 276.
Those were his batting averages every year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So his batting averages are fine, but if he's primarily hitting singles,
right. So that's the thing.
Like Coors, his OPS plus is going to look really, really shitty.
Yeah.
So now I am going to rewind a little bit and say maybe I was too harsh on Trevor's story. So here's what I was getting at when I was thinking, when I was going through my thought process, because he's having a decent year now in Boston after a slow start, right?
Oh, he had more than a slow start. I mean, it was a fucking disaster.
Yeah,
but I think he has been decent since.
He had a start of Gallo proportions.
Yeah, pretty sure he got hurt though.
Yeah. That's, Matt, that's actually a really interesting point. Obviously, we have addressed, especially on recent episodes, the gulf between Matt and I when it comes to evaluating hitters. But I do think that that's actually an interesting point. And so then it depends on how you want to assess a player and how you want to value them, right? So if you want to take into account walks and extra base hits, then you got to ignore batting average and you got to just look at OPS. But if you are curious, if you're on the lookout for a player who doesn't have any power and you're okay with that, then okay. You could look at batting average and be like, can this guy just hit? Can he hit singles? Whatever.
And so that's the thing is I never looked at DJ's OPS plus.
Yeah.
Before tonight. So yeah, it's pretty horrendous.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But his career OPS at this point, 778.
Which is solid. That's actually
Gallows
quite good.
Gallows is only 804. So
yeah. Right. Fair enough. Yeah. In these Yankee years, DJ has figured something out, right? And it's not like he's hitting a ton of homers. Is he getting? He doesn't hit a ton of doubles.
He's got more homers than he hit in his entire Colorado career.
That's true, and he did hit 26 the first year, but 2019 is also a very misleading year. Okay, here's a random. I know we're kind of flying all over the place here, but that just reminded me. So obviously, we've talked about 2019, and we've talked about the baseball being juiced. We talked about Glaber hitting 38 homers that year, and how so many people did. Right? Here's a random, insane stat that I saw the other day. I wish I could remember since which year. I think it's since 2019.
Eugenio Suarez?
Yes. You saw that, Matt. Yes.
Yeah.
Eugenio Suarez, who's on the Mariners now, right? Who was with the Reds, has the most homers since 2019, in the majors?
In the majors, yeah.
Which is fucking insane.
Two
Eugenio
more
Suarez.
Than Judge, I think, in Alonso.
Yeah. And here's the thing. In 2019, He hit 49 homers. 49 homers. That's insane. You know, we've talked about this before on the pod. Because we've gotten, in our generation, in our lifetime, we've gotten spoiled with homers, right? Because McGuire and Sosa and Bonds and all these guys happened, right? So we've gotten spoiled. But if we look at baseball history, there have not been that many seasons of a person hitting 49 or more homers. That is a fuck ton of homers. Eugenio Suarez hit that many in 2019. And Glaber, of course, we know hit 38. That's how crazy the ball was that year. So when we look at 2019, we need to be taking it with like 10 massive grains of salt.
Remember,
right?
he played in Cincinnati. He played in a very, very hitter-friendly park.
Right, that too. That's right. I forgot. Yeah, what is it? Great American Ballpark or something?
Yeah.
Or it used to be called it. Yeah.
Yeah, Great American Ballpark.
Yeah. So DJ hit 26 in 2019, but I think his career high other than that is like 12. So so clearly, right, 2019 is like a very strange outlier. But yeah, Kyle is right. I mean, he has like way more in his Yankee career than his whole Rocky career. But yeah, I just saw that the other day and I was like, oh my God, 2019 was so fucking weird.
Well, I will say I stand humbled. Actually, holy shit. DJ had like seasons of 18, 10, and 23, and then 11 stolen bases. So I guess he was fast. What the heck's going on, DJ?
Fast-ish. Yeah, that's
What the
actually
heck's
not too
going on?
bad. Yeah, that ain't bad.
8 triples in 2016.
Oh, see, 8 triples is good.
Yeah.
Oh, that was his batting title year.
Yeah. So I will stay, you know, the comparison to Gallo in terms of 162 game, you know, that I'll give you that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, Gallo, there's no denying, right? One of the worst tenures of a Yankee ever, and it was painful. It was painful to watch. Like I will, I'm not gonna miss thinking about him or watching his at bats. Like, good riddance. I don't care what he does with the Dodgers. Good riddance. And also, and we talked about this, right? We talked about this, or at least I ranted about this like a couple weeks ago about his whole "woe is me" shit that he did in an interview like after the trade to the Dodgers and stuff. And that's more to your point, Matt, right? Like, these guys are professional athletes. Like, you know, fucking figure it out.
Now, I mean, you know, yeah, he's making $10 million. You know, I'm not gonna feel bad for him.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, no way.
Now there is a meme floating around out there that it's because he had to shave.
I saw that his stats with a beard versus without a beard. I have to say the evidence is compelling.
Yes.
You know, and okay, and actually, you know what? While we're on this, sorry, I'm all fired up now. While we're on this, I don't know that us three have ever talked about this. This whole Yankee thing with facial hair is the stupidest fucking shit I've ever heard. And it has gone on for like decades too long at this point. Why is it still a thing? Do you guys disagree with me on that? And if so, you're uptight fucking idiots. But go ahead if you do.
No.
Yeah, it's like the stupidest shit. Why is it still a rule?
It's literally, I think,
it's a holdover from George, because George was an uptight old white fucking super rich guy who was an asshole. Like,
yeah, I don't know if it's a major league rule that you can't wear an earring. Like, I know Bonds used to, and Griffey even, I think, did at certain points. But you can't have any jewelry outside of like what's on your neck or something like that.
Okay, I didn't know
like,
about that.
Yeah, that's the only other, like, I'm like, pretty much everything else, the Yankees are like, do whatever. Like, whatever shoes you want to wear, you want to show off all your tattoos, you want to wear your hat sideways or halfway up like Montas does. They're just like, we don't care anymore. Like, none of that stuff matters anymore. But when it comes to the facial hair, it's like, can't have it, but you can have a mullet like Donaldson does.
Yeah.
Okay, counterpoint: the facial hair rule has given us wonderful mustaches from Carpenter and Nestor.
That is true.
Very small benefit there.
Very
small.
true.
Now, the difference between a wonderful stash like those guys have and like a creepy stash like Giambi had, you know, that's a fine line.
Yeah.
And it's just such a stupid thing in general. I don't know. I can't believe that it still exists. And actually, you know what? I was going to try and bring us back around to the other thing I wanted to mention from what Carl had talked about, which was Hal and Cashman getting booed during the Paul O'Neill ceremony. I personally think it's like dumb and a waste of time and energy to boo them, and doesn't really make any sense. However, I will say I'm gonna actually modify my stance on Hal. I think we should boo Hal until he gets rid of the facial hair rule. But otherwise, the boos don't make any sense to me. It just goes back to what I was saying about Yankee fans earlier. I think that they're the fucking worst. I don't think the boos make sense. I think Hal has done a fine job as owner. I think that he has not made any stupid impulse signings like his father would have done. He has trusted Cashman. Cashman, as you guys know, I believe, has done an amazing job. He can't control Joey Gallo being Joey Gallo, but I think that Cashman is one of the best in the biz. And from what I've read, other executives around Major League Baseball also think of him as one of the best in the biz. So to be a Yankee fan and to boo him is like really crazy to me. The Yankees are in the middle of like pretty much an unprecedented stretch in like modern sports history in terms of the fact that they have not had a losing season since we all were fucking toddlers.
1993.
And yeah, and that shit like doesn't really happen in modern competitive sports. It's just like kind of impossible. And even the quote unquote like bad years that we had, the rebuilding years that we had, we were still under 500. We were still in contention for like most of the season. Like that is incredible. And you know, I'm not saying Cash gets like all of the credit. Obviously, there's a huge staff here that he's relying on and everything. But the dude is really fucking good at his job, and I just don't understand. Like, I just don't understand booing him. I don't get it.
Yeah. That is I think that is a discussion for another day, obviously, but just randomly thinking about it now since you brought him up. Prior to Brian Cashman, it was a revolving door. And you know, Torrey had at least stabilized the managerial seat. But that even started before Cashman's reign started.
Yeah, Cashman started in 98, right?
98, yeah. Because Watson quit right before the season started because he couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
And you know, Cashman has obviously stabilized it for himself. But I do wonder, like, are there people who are capable? Sure. I'm positive there are people who are capable. Are there people who are capable of handling the New York pressure that we have talked about pretty extensively tonight? That part I'm less sure about.
Yeah.
Like that's a part that I think gets overlooked because of what you just mentioned, Ethan, the fact that they do put out a winning ball club every single season. And it's like what I said earlier, it's just not enough. Like it doesn't matter how much you win if you're not winning the World Series every year. And even then it wouldn't be enough. They could win the World Series every single year and they still wouldn't do enough. You know, and it's like, are they going to be able to find someone to replace Cashman whenever that happens, if he decides to leave, if the Yankees decide to move on from him? This is a contract year, so it could happen this season, you know, after this season. And I just wonder, like, that stability right there, I think has allowed for the continuity of the stability at the manager's seat to excel. And that has allowed for the overall continuity that's what I write my book about, right? So like this is me getting on my soapbox about excellence, and excellence being sustainability versus success being championships all the time. And I'm like, what do you really want? Do you want what George did? Or the question actually is, can you even do what George did in today's landscape? Can you do what he did throughout the 1980s and survive?
Isn't that what the Dodgers are doing right now?
Nah, the Dodgers have Andrew Friedman at the helm. He's if anybody's a better GM than Cashman, it's him.
Yeah, they don't have a hands-on owner.
Yeah, they don't have a fucking psycho owner who's going to get kicked out of baseball for a year.
Okay, Jerry Jones. Sorry.
Yeah. But I think those are like legitimate questions, and this is exactly what you're talking about, Ethan. Like only people who think deeply about these things and like want to be rational will have these type of conversations. But most Yankee fans are just like, anyone could do it better than Cashman. And it's just like that's just not true.
Yeah.
No, you know what Cashman gets you? Cashman gets you the early 90s Bills. It's going to lose every year in the World Series, you know.
Ugh, yeah, God, fucking Yankee fans. We probably shouldn't get into this tonight because we probably ought to wrap up here pretty soon. But I was thinking about something today, and I want to talk about this maybe next week. Cousin Greg told us, was it last week that Greg, or 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago, Cousin Greg told us about his buddy, Mike Elias, who is the fucking GM of the Baltimore Orioles.
Your third place Baltimore Orioles.
Not only third place Baltimore Orioles, but the Baltimore Orioles, who have had the #1 farm system in the majors for the last 2 years. I want to talk about that a little bit more next time, because we on this podcast have shat on the Baltimore Orioles extensively. Obviously, the greatest source of my anger with the Baltimore Orioles was the French fries at Camden Yards. But in general, we are all very displeased with the Orioles on this podcast. However, we got to talk about Cousin Greg's buddy, Mike Elias, because he's doing a good fucking job. And I want to dig into that a little bit more, because I also think it's really good for baseball.
Also, to answer Cousin Greg's question, if you fold a pizza, depending on your geographic location, if you're here and you fold, it's a stromboli, but it's not a pizza sandwich. It's either a stromboli or a calzone. Now, a calzone, stromboli could probably fall into the umbrella of pizza sandwich, but I don't know about a calzone, because that's like encapsulated, like a calzone is like if a pizza sandwich and a ravioli had like a baby, because it's encapsulated, I don't know. That's just for Cousin Greg and his Jabroni Brothers Pizza.
Nice.
All right, boys, we got plenty to talk about next time.
We do.
And I think your boy Trevor Story is actually at bat, so he's not hurt anymore.
Okay.
Any shout outs before we go?
I don't think so.
Shout out to Ethan's wiggly finger.